All right, everyone. Welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 9 recap. 9 weeks in the books already. Let's see if we can adjust the light here. Is that all right? Not nothing really dramatic or exciting in football happened this week. I think I had to try really hard. I spent the whole day thinking I don't even know what song or what picture to put up. I'm not putting Dalvin Cook up again 2 weeks in a row, even though I probably could. Little Baba O'Reilly because Detling retook first place, which I guess he missed my comment when I said that you're going to be getting first place back, and you said, "Oh, I was already in first place before." I know that's what I said, but you got it back because I my team failed me again after watching that Saints Buccaneers game. I still can't believe that Tampa Bay scored. If you told me they would score 3 points and those 3 points would not come until the very end of the game just to avoid a shutout, I would have said you were crazy. Didn't lose by much, but got basically nothing from Gronk, nothing from my kicker, the Tampa Bay kicker. More surprisingly, very little to nothing from DeAndre Hopkins and Chase Edmonds. I was expecting a big game from both of them, pretty decent game from both of those guys, and not even a touchdown from either one. Could have turned my matchup the other way, but you guys don't care about my matchup. I'm sure you're actually pretty excited that I lost. Anytime you see the Topes lose, you guys seem to get pretty excited. You even wanted me out of the knockout pool. I mean, come on. Which ended up happening on the last carry of the game for Possum's guy. But yeah, we had, so other than Detling retaking first place, I guess it makes it more interesting because we play each other this week. So that's kind of just setting up an even more interesting matchup this week, as the Topes will look to retake first place, and Yinzer Jags will look to bounce into a one-game lead with only 3 weeks. It would only be 3 weeks after this here. So the fight for the top spot, the regular season top spot, is up for grabs here, thanks to the Isotopes currently on a slide here. But I guess there wasn't really any injuries. I'm not thinking anything off the top of my head here. Darkwing Jet got Christian McCaffrey back, and he immediately went off for like 30 points, 25, 30 points. Although he might be injured again, but I'm not sure the severity of that. I think that something I was watching on YouTube said they are concerned that it might be something with his collarbone. But, I mean, that would be worst case scenario. So we will see what happens there. I'll have to check the updates here, maybe. But other than that, I don't think there was any real excitement. Nothing crazy happened. Again, another week of middling scores. A lot of the winning teams had were in the 170s. Several teams in like the 150 range. And again, only one 200-point score, which was the Hillbillies on PCP, actually, once again. I feel like I just said that last week. And I'm sure Brian would be upset if I did not mention that the Hillbillies on PCP have jumped up to being the highest scoring team in the league so far this year, even though the record is 4-5, as many of you will recall. Let's see, Hillbillies on PCP started off 0-4, now 4-5, one win away from being back to 500. Told you, Brian, from the beginning That's just got to keep on. Things will balance out. Um, your scores are still ridiculous. Dalvin Cook has been ridiculous. Um, how long will those things last? You're not going to score 200 points every week. You don't even have Christian McCaffrey this year. So I was surprised that you went over 200 points this week. I'm not even sure. Like, once again, um, because I didn't really see much going on other than obviously Dalvin Cook, but then Roethlisberger ended up going for 60 some, and all your receivers put up good scores there. So let's see. I think that's really enough. I've been yammering about nothing for a couple minutes already. So let's get into the first Week 9 matchup. It's the matchup I was just looking at. As always, we start with the defending champion from Gags to Riches. And he was the one up against Hillbillies on PCP this week. And obviously, Gags to Riches loses this week because, as I already mentioned, Hillbillies on PCP were the only team to break the 200-point barrier this week. Final score here was 225.1 to 171.55. For Hillbillies, Roethlisberger, 60 points. His receivers, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, and Chase Claypool. 25.5 for Allen, just under 24 for Metcalf, and Claypool about 15.5. Dalvin Cook, he had a long touchdown, a 70-yard run there. So his actual score was 47.2. Le'Veon Bell, only 1.3. Hawkinson, 15 points. Jefferson in the flex, 9.5. Kicker is Prater. He went for about 7 or 7.5. And the Steelers defense, Yahoo says 14. Looks like you got a bump of about 9. So about 23 for the Steelers defense there. So over 100 points just from Roethlisberger and Dalvin Cook there. Basically means you just need the rest of your team to show up and do okay, or at least meet expectations, and you're going to be over 200 points. And you were this week, enough to get past from Gags to Riches. His score was 171.55. Just taking a quick look here. 1, 2, 3 other teams would have beat you this week. So you can't feel too bad that you went up against the highest scoring team, because they were not the only ones who would have knocked you off in potential matchups there. Deshaun Watson, he had a long touchdown. He goes for 49. Julio, Tyreek, and Mike Evans, 16.5 for Julio. Tyreek goes for 2 more touchdowns, 33 points for him. Mike Evans, 10.5. Your running backs, Montgomery and Ronald Jones, 5.2, 4.8 respectively. Travis Kelce, no touchdowns, but he goes for 10 for 159, getting that 150-yard receiving bonus, I should say. So his score was 28.9. In the flex, Beasley from Buffalo there, 7 points. Your kicker, Tucker, about 7.5, and then the Arizona Cardinals defense. Yahoo says 3, but you got about a 10-point bump, maybe 9 or so. So the actual score was probably 12 for the Arizona Cardinals defense there. Not much you could do this week for Gags. Said 171, not a bad score, is going to get you a win quite often. Maybe not always, roughly half the time, maybe a little bit more than that. So this week you would have beaten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. So a little over half the league. Half the time that's going to get you. So about 60%, 70% time that's going to get you a win here, but not this week. Your Chiefs did good. Quarterback score, anything. If your quarterback gives you 40 to 50, you can never complain about that. Just a couple single-digit scores there, but your opponent went for 225. Just bad luck. Not much you can do about that. But move on to the next week here. But Skags to Riches, with that loss, he's still in third place. He's 6-3. Hillbillies on PCP, they move up to 4-5 in seventh place, knocking on that playoff door. All right down the line, as we usually do, we'll go Shawshank Athletics versus Springfield Isotopes, and the Shawshank Athletics keep their season alive, their playoff hopes alive, handing the Isotopes their second loss in a row after starting off undefeated at 7-0, now 7-2. Shawshank Athletics 156.3. Springfield Isotopes 147.5. Shawshank has Herbert go for 57.5. His wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Chenault, and John Brown. Is there no other Brown that you could pick up and have played in that spot here? A.J. goes for 20. John goes for 18. And unfortunately, Chenault gets injured and goes for 0.9. Gurley and Irvin, 13.5 for Gurley, 11.2 for Irvin. Mark Andrews, only 5.2. Fournette in the flex, 10.1. Your kicker, Gonzalez from Arizona, he goes for about 6.5. And then the Miami Dolphins defense, Yahoo says 10, but they did have a touchdown. They gave a lot of points, a lot of yards here, so I believe the actual score was, based on your bump, I'm going to guess 13 for the Miami defense there. But it was enough to get past the Springfield Isotopes, who had Matt Ryan go for 49. Receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, and Will Fuller. Again, DeAndre Hopkins goes for 6 points. Deontay goes for 14, and Will Fuller goes for 24. Kamara and Edmonds, 16 and 12, respectively. Fant, tight end, goes for 7.5. In the flex, Gronk, 1.2. Suck up, the kicker, only, he had one field goal, I believe 4.7 or something like that, 4.8. And then the Seattle Seahawks defense, went with them against Buffalo and turned out to be the absolute wrong decision. They didn't do too bad because we got about a 10-point bump, maybe 9. So the actual score was about 16. Not great, but not bad. But no turnovers or anything from there, plus minus points for the loss. Pretty much anything, so a 9-point difference here. Really should have told Josh, does he want me to play Aaron Jones or not? He kind of implied that he wanted me to because he picked up Irvin and played him, meaning he was expecting that Aaron Jones would do very little. And if I had flexed Aaron Jones, I would have won this matchup. If I had started Aaron Rodgers over Matt Ryan, I would have won this matchup. And if I would have stuck with Buffalo Bills defense, which was kind of a last-minute change-up, I would have won this matchup. However, it's easy, as always, to sit here and say what you would have done in hindsight. Matt Ryan, no problem with that decision, starting him. Hopkins, Edmonds, Gronk, suck up. I mean, again, like I said, if you would have told me that Tampa Bay was only going to score 3 points, be shut out basically till the last minutes of the game, I would have said you were crazy. This matchup was winnable, absolutely winnable. Just bad luck, and the big guns let me down once again here. So I'm sure anyone who is watching or listening is like, cry me a river, whatever you guys said. Yeah. Anyway, the Isotopes lose 7-2. They drop to second place. Shawshank Athletics, they move up to 4-5. They are in ninth place, but in a crowded field of 5-4s and 4-5s here. All right. And as I already mentioned, This score knocked the Isotopes out of the knockout pool, thanks to the very last carry by Damian Harris of the Patriots on Monday night. His very last carry before getting injured and knocked out was a 21-yard run. If it had been a 19-yard run, Treesice would have been the one knocked out. So after short runs all night long and watching him get stuffed, he breaks and I think he broke a tackle and gained like an extra 5 yards at the end of that carry and turned it into 21. Said if it was only 19 or less, which that's not asking for too much, is it? Holding someone to an under 20-yard rush. But they didn't do it, and that is the way it goes. So, teams still in the knockout pool: Gags to Riches, Dub C Hooligans, and Possum Magic. We will see if Gags to Riches can survive this week without his Kansas City Chiefs. So that will be something to watch here. All right, then taking over first place, we have Yinzer Jags, who went up against Saquon It Ain't So. 178.45 for Yinzer Jags in victory. 135.6 for Saquon in defeat. For Yinzer Jags, we had Kyler Murray go for 65. His receivers, Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, and Adam Thielen. 12.5 for Cooper. Thielen, 5.8. And Devontae Adams just cannot be stopped when he plays this year. Another 36.5 points for him. Running backs, James White, Adrian Peterson, 6.5, 7.5. Ebron, 11. I don't even know this guy's first name. Trent Taylor, wide receiver from San Francisco, went with him in the flex. 2 points. Blankenship, your kicker, about 5.5. And then the Baltimore Ravens defense. Yahoo says 18. Based on the bump, score must have been about 26 or 27. So close to 100 there with your defense, or your buns got almost 100. Devontae Adams did all the rest, pretty much the rest of the heavy lifting for you. With 36 points there. Just taking a quick look at Devontae Adams' game log. 44, 6, 0, 0, bye week. 12, 47, 30, and 36. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 8 weeks so far, he has scored at least 30 points, 30 to 47, somewhere in that range. So, hard to, surprising. Probably the reason I didn't start Aaron Rodgers on Thursday night. Number one, I hate Thursday night games. And two, Devontae Adams is like their only receiver. How are teams not like double and triple teaming Devontae Adams? Is he that good? I mean, yeah, he's great, but you should be taking this guy out of the game. I really thought that was going to happen. They would focus on him and make Rodgers throw to the other guys, which I didn't think they would be quite as successful. Also thought Green Bay would pretty easily win that game, which they did, and Rodgers wouldn't have to do as much as he ended up doing. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's talk about Saquon It Ain't So instead of still kind of nibbling at the isotopes there. For Saquon, let's see, we had Drew Brees go for 51. Juju, 21. Corey Davis, unfortunately for you, goes for 0. Devontae Parker, 12.5. James Conner and Wayne Gallman, your running backs. Only 4 from Conner in a great matchup. Gallman, 14.5. Jonnu Smith, 11.2. Tonyan, the tight end from Green Bay. Big free agent acquisition for you. Big buck spending acquisition there, I'm pretty sure, earlier in the year. Only 1.5 points from him. Let's see, what was the week that Tonyan went off for all those touchdowns. Week 4, that was, and they had their bye. And ever since then, he's gone for 5, 5, 12, and 1. So, I mean, tight end is a wasteland this year for the most part, unless you have Kelsey. But having to start him in your flex, got to think you have better options there. But I'm taking a look at your bench, and Jay had a lot of injury and bye week problems, and frankly, he didn't have any other options that would have done anything else. The only other option was Scotty Miller, who scored 2 points this week. Kicker Lutz goes for about 8, 8.5. And then the Colts defense, so the matchup of defense versus defense here. Yahoo, Yahoo says 11, and I believe that must have been correct because your score is only bumped up an additional 0.6 for Saquon. It ain't so. All right, so with that victory, Yinzer Jags moves up to 7-2. He takes over first place, and Saquon It Ain't So drops to 3-6, outside that 4-5 playoff contention window. Still not out of it though. Jay, you are in 10th place. Said 3-6. Still got a fighting chance, but to get to 7 wins, you are going to have to win the rest of the way out. You can really only afford. There's definitely a possibility of a 6-7 playoff team this year. It's never really a strong possibility, but it's always there. And for Saquon It Ain't So, you are either going to have to win out the rest of your schedule, or you can afford one more loss. Your point total, your overall point total, just taking a quick look here. 1507, that's actually not too bad. It's more than Shawshank, more than Darkwing, more than Disco. So if you can make a run with some decent scores these last few weeks of the season, you're definitely still have a chance. But gotta say, it is not looking too good. But anything can happen from week to week here. All right, next up, we had Darkwing Jut, said Christian McCaffrey coming back this week versus Ed Logger, and Darkwing gets the victory, 174.2 to 133.6. Ed Logger this year, pretty consistent scorer, said with that 133. Let's take a quick look at him. His scores so far this year, he's at 137, 137, 143, 120, 139, 126, 133. So he did have a win with a 120 score, and his highest score was a 179. Not ripping on you here, Ed. Just saying that you've been pretty consistent, and I'm sure you would absolutely agree that your team has underperformed and been a real disappointment this year. Just got Michael Thomas back. He didn't do too much in his first game back, but injury problems and just don't know about Lamar Jackson. Hasn't been the numbers just haven't added up this year for you. We can pretty much pencil you in for about 130 points each week, and unfortunately, that has only been enough to get you a win once, and the other time you just barely beat. They actually beat Hillbillies on PCP earlier in the season here, though. But let's get back to the matchup at hand. So Darkwing Jut had Christian McCaffrey come back, and they were playing the Chiefs. So this one was quite the shootout. I see Teddy Bridgewater, Darkwing Jut's quarterback. He went for 70 points. He had 36 completions. And Christian McCaffrey had 10 of those catches. 70.5 for Bridgewater. Actually, I was wrong. 37, over 37 for McCaffrey. So over 100 points just from Bridgewater and McCaffrey. Surprising that Darkwing Jut did not break 200 points, considering The rest of his team just needed to show up. But surprisingly here, DJ Moore, his quarterback, had 70 points and 36 completions, but only 2 of them went to DJ Moore. I mean, obviously, it really doesn't matter. You got the win. You would have liked a lot more points from this one because you are in that standings jumble here, and it very well could come down to some playoff spots being determined by overall point totals. So any points you can get, even in victory, keep pile on as much as you can because you might be needing them a couple weeks from now. All right, again, Bridgewater, 70.5. Darkwing Jets receivers, DJ Moore, Russell Gage, and Michael Gallup, 3.8, 3.1, 6.6. Running backs, Singletary and Swift, 6.5, 12.5 respectively. Gesicki goes for 7.2. Again, McCaffrey, 37.1. Myers, your kicker from Seattle, couple field goals, couple PATs. He goes for about 13. And then plug and play this week, Houston defense against Jacksonville. They didn't do too great. They got the victory. Yahoo says 8. Score must have been actually about 14, maybe 13 or 14. The bumps are usually like 3, 6, 9, 12. So it must have been about 6. So I would say 14 for the Houston Texans defense. Not a bad score from a plug and play defense there. And Darkwing gets the victory. Ed Lager, let's take a look at what he had. Lamar Jackson, 39.5. Wide receivers, Ruggs, Shepard, and Michael Thomas, 1, 11.5, and 10 respectively. Your running backs, David Johnson and Antonio Gibson. Johnson got hurt early in the game, went out with a concussion, after getting only 1.5 here. Antonio Gibson, 12.5. Dwelly, San Francisco tight end, 8.2. McKinnon in the flex there, 15.8. McManus about 12. And then the Green Bay Packers defense. Let's see. Yahoo says 13. Your bump is about 9, 8 or 9, I'm going to guess. So we'll say 9, and that was ended up to about 22. Not much you could do there this week for you. Again, Bridgewater, McCaffrey, 107 points just from those two guys. So to get past you this week, they didn't really need to do too much. Some injury problems and really just overall disappointing performances from some of your biggest players here this year. And I would probably say that Lamar Jackson has been an extreme disappointment. He's been in the 30s pretty much every single week. 50 was his highest score in week 1. He had a 49-pointer in week 6. But really, you're expecting your quarterback, not every week, but at least a couple times a year to really pop off and give you maybe a 60 or 70-pointer. Just not getting that from Lamar Jackson. Just really the volume is just too low on that team. Personally, and I've probably said this before, I will never draft Lamar Jackson in our league. I know he was your keeper this year. Again, just the volume doesn't add up to me unless they really turn around how they play football in Baltimore with the heavy rushing. I know Lamar Jackson can often do a lot of rushing and get you points there, but again, it's just hasn't added up to any. I mean, he's been pretty consistent, but you're looking for quite often to get more than 35 to 40 points from your quarterback. If our league did not count completions, Lamar Jackson absolutely would be a top tier quarterback. Maybe not top tier, but if we didn't count completions, thanks to his rushing, I think he would probably be maybe not top tier, but he would definitely be top I don't know if a top 5 maybe, top 10 absolutely. Not really sure. I would have to stop and actually think about that a little bit more, which I won't do here and now, and keep you guys any longer than we have to. So, Darkwing Jet, he gets that victory. He moves up to 5-4. He is in 6th place. Ed Logger again drops to 3-6. He is down in 11th place. Basically the same spot as I just talked about. Saquon and 8 so 3-6. Ed Logger, your point total, unfortunately, is, as I've already kind of delved into, super low. The lowest in the league so far, 12-24. So you have to win out the rest of your schedule, I would guess, to even have a chance. If you would end up 6-7, I'm sure there would be other teams ending up 6-7, and for you to make up hundreds of points of ground over the next couple of weeks, sorry, but I just don't think it's in the cards for you. So if you can really only lose one more time, 7-6 is your only chance, and then again, it's going to take a lot of help to get there. So you're not out of it, just like Saquon. It ain't so, but we are getting down to the nitty gritty of the season here, and if you're going to make a push, you better start real soon. And by real soon, I mean immediately. So, but yeah, that is just the way it goes sometimes. We can't all make the playoffs. All right, even though we all want to. All right, next up we got Disco going up against the Mighty Midgets, and Disco gets the victory, 153.1. Mighty Midgets, a victim of the Tampa Bay game, which I'm sure Disco just loved watching, considering that these guys swapped quarterbacks a couple weeks ago. Disco getting Mahomes, and Mighty Midgets getting Tom Brady. 112.55 for the Mighty Midgets. Disco gets the victory. Let's take a look at him. He had Mahomes go for 67.5. The rest of his team, Godwin, 7. Marquise Brown, 7. Mike Williams, 13. Dobbins, 5.5. Josh Kelly, 11. Waller, 13. Josh Jacobs, 14. Carlson, your kicker, about 7.5. And the Redskins defense, Yahoo says 8. Looks like your score didn't really change at all either, Disco. So that score must have been correct too. So yeah, even though you got 67 from Mahomes, rest of your team, the highest score was 13.8. A couple single-digit scores there. So it may sound like I'm ripping on your team. I'm not. You're not going to be able to get by probably come playoff time if you're in there. Hoping for Mahomes to carry you with these 60, 70-point scores every week. As someone who has owned Patrick Mahomes for a couple of years, I can tell you that he can definitely do it, but it is not something that I would expect to happen. At least not every single week. He'll come back down to some normal scores here, but it's going to take the rest of your guys to start showing up if you hope to make an actual real strong playoff push here. Because said that 153, kind of talking about some other teams and their consistent sort of scoring, and I want to say Disco has been pretty steadily around that 150, 160 in that ballpark here. Just taking a look at you real quick here. Week 1, 150. Week 2, 150. Week 4, 146. Week 6, 154. 164, 168, 153. So yeah, other than that one, you had a 199 in week 3. So other than that, And just stating the facts here, Disco, you've been right around that 150 to 165 ballpark pretty much every week. Um, I mean, it's not a terrible spot to be in, but it is a spot that I would say your chances of winning are maybe 50% at best. Come playoff time, you're definitely going to need your team to come together and boost some of these scores here and hope for, well, anything can happen, but I definitely would say that if you're going to make the playoffs, which I have thought that you Disco would for quite a while now, uh, you're going to need the rest of your team to start performing a little bit better. Just my opinion, based on the numbers, not digging. It's never a personal attack, of course. So I know you might say something about it on the line app or whatever after the podcast, but or the review here. But again, just looking at the numbers and saying what I see. So, but you can't feel bad because I'm telling you right now that I've thought Disco was going to be a playoff team for quite a while now. Thought Hillbillies on PCP. I guess might as well just let this let it all out while we're at it here. Disco and Hillbillies, I've thought were going to be playoff teams, and the last one was kind of up in the air in between Dub C, Possum Magic, and Darkwing Jet here. With the three top teams who already would already be in, Ginzer Jags, Gags, and the Isotopes there. Disco, Hillbillies, I've kind of thought that they would be the teams that would pull away down the stretch here, and we will obviously see how that goes. But maybe I need to go back. I need to put my hat on, my sunglasses, and go back to not revealing what's going on in here because you guys, it's too much information already that I should be keeping to myself. So anyway, Disco gets the win. Let's talk about Mighty Midgets. All right, said he had Tom Brady, who went for 23 and a half. Actually thought it was less than that, but he did have some 22 completions, but no touchdowns and 3 interceptions there. Wide receivers: Lamb, Cooks, Brown. Is that cooking directions? Are those instructions from a cooking manual to cook your lamb till it's brown? This is the Brown. You should trade Antonio Brown to Josh so that he can start A.J. Brown, John Brown, and Antonio Brown. That's the other one I was looking for. Forgetting that Antonio Brown is back in the league. Maybe not for much longer because I believe I read an update about his legal troubles where the woman who accused him of rape basically signed a sworn affidavit saying that he raped her, so not looking good, assuming that she's not lying on a sworn affidavit. Things may not... Antonio Brown might not be around too much longer here. Let's see. So Lamb, Cooks, Brown. We're talking about grilling and cooking, serving lamb. Lamb, Cooks, Brown, 15, 17, and 6. Justin Jackson for you. He gets hurt early in that game. Doesn't get you any points this week. Wilkins, your, I guess, big free agent acquisition last week. The $69 acquisition. Gets you less points than dollars spent. If we say you spent 6.9, you actually got less than that point-wise, 5.8. Jimmy Graham, 17.5. Randall Cobb in the flex, 5 points. Robbie Gould, about 4.5. And then the Bears defense, Yahoo says 9. I'm going to say you got about a 9-point bump there, so about 18 points from the Bears defense. But yeah, just nothing going right for this season. For the Mighty Midgets, said bouncing around with his quarterback situation there. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly what all the pieces of that trade were. before you acquired Brady. So you got, I'm pretty sure Cooks was part of that. Because Disco got sick of him. Anybody else there? But Tom Brady. Let's see. I mean, if you had still had Patrick Mahomes in this matchup, said it would appear that you would get the victory. It would have been just enough points if Disco had started Tom Brady, but then he would have had Cooks, who said he was your best player. Well, actually, second best player, Jimmy Graham, going for 17 there. I can't even remember who you might have started at wide receiver in one of those spots here. So, looking at Mighty Midget's bench, really nothing. I don't know. You traded him Mahomes, and was there somebody else? I don't think. Was there anybody else? I don't remember any of these other players being on the Mighty Midgets here earlier. Maybe whoever you traded for, you dropped. I wanted to say there was somebody. It wasn't just Patrick Mahomes. Was it Antonio Gibson, who you turned around and traded away to Ed, I believe. But anyway, the point is, even if you had swapped quarterbacks here, even though on paper it looks like the Mighty Midgets would have won this matchup, the other pieces of that trade would have prevented that from actually happening here. So, but like I said, nothing going right for Mighty Midgets this year. Started off with some potential, a victim of the Dak Prescott fallout there. CeeDee Lamb was putting up strong numbers. Eckler gets hurt. Let's see, Miles Sanders. Joe Mixon, I think I think you drafted him. He was your number one pick. Disappointing year. I think maybe he had one big week. But I mean, a lot of potential here on your roster, but things just haven't turned out well for the Mighty Midgets. I could keep talking about disappointing things and keep going on and on and on. But I'm sure he is well aware and equally disappointed in his team's overall performance this year. He drops to 1-8. He is in 12th place. And with 4 weeks to go, I believe you are actually in 12th place by 2 games. So it's looking pretty good that the Mighty Midgets will be wearing the Phillip Rivers jersey next year. Which reminds me, why do every year we keep forgetting about this stuff? The Rivers jersey, the Romo jersey, the Redskins pen, the Browns pin. Every year. I don't even know where most of the stuff is. I think some people say that they have things and they know where they are. We've had a couple drafts in a row with nobody wearing the Romo jersey, nobody wearing the Rivers jersey, and those are some of the best parts about the draft, is getting together and making you guys wear those jerseys of shame. So, we got to bring that back. Why do we keep forgetting about it? I'm really upset about it. Whenever I remember about it, I get really upset about it. So, but anyway, I don't know if I mentioned Disco. He moved up to 5-4. He is in 5th place. All right, final matchup: Dub C Hooligans versus Possum Magic. Even though Possum got just enough to stay in the knockout pool, he loses this week to Dub C Hooligans, who, as you may recall from last week, I said Possum Magic was riding a 4-game win streak. Dub C Hooligans were riding a 4-game losing streak. So 2 teams going in opposite directions, and the Dub C Hooligans really needed to take this one, and they ended up getting it 174.6 to 147.65. For Dub C, Russell Wilson, 55, Allen Robinson, 15, DJ Chark, he had a long touchdown, so his score was actually 30.5. Robbie Anderson, 15, Edwards-Helaire, 12.5. James Robinson, 16. Perhaps the free agent pickup, one of the best pickup of the year, perhaps. I think you got him for free, for nothing during the and the transaction might have been free during that preseason free transaction period. He's been, I don't know if let's see. He's got to be in the top 5, I'm going to guess. I know we've had some running backs in the league this year, putting up some huge scores throughout the week. But James Robinson, I won't look it up exactly here, but he's put up 24, 30, 34, 15, 15. He's got it. He's got it. I'm sure he's top 10, if not close to being. If he's in the top 5, he is 5. So he's probably in that 5 to 8 range in terms of overall running backs this season. So a good pickup there early on that has panned out for the Dub C Hooligans. And as we kind of get in here, I think everybody kind of laughed about this. Dub C started off the week on Thursday night, picking up and playing, well, he already had Hasty, but plugging in 2 San Francisco 49ers, Jordan Reed, fresh off IR, and Hasty in running back there. Since Coleman is injured again, Mostert is injured again, a lot of problems there. But Jordan Reed only goes for 1.3, and Hasty only 3.3. So 4.6 points after from 2 players after Thursday night there. I know. I'm sorry. I'm laughing about it. Kevin, I'm sure you laughed about it too. Maybe not with as much jest as me, and real jest as me. Maybe you laughed in dismay, really, because all you could do was laugh about it. But I think we all were kind of laughing about the outcome. Maybe it could have gone the other way, and you would have been laughing at us for doubting you. But yeah, it can't get much worse, really, than said 4.5 points from those 2 guys combined. Your kicker, Koo, goes for about 12, 13 points. And then the Patriots defense, Yahoo says 7, but I think we bumped you up about 9. So that would be 16. And it was enough to get past Possum Magic this week. Said even though I think we all thought Possum Magic was going to take this one down after your Thursday night performance, said it turned out to be the Dub C Hooligans who were playing Possum this week. They were playing Possum, and they were also playing Possum. It gets the victory. Let's take a look at Possum Magic's score. Matt Stafford, 31.5. Diggs, 20.8. Tyler Lockett, again, boom, or not really bust, but kind of meh. 8 points from him this week. Scary Terry, he had a long touchdown. There were a lot of long touchdowns this week. Actually, my list was like 6 players that needed those boosts there. So 27.5 for him. Derrick Henry, only 6.8 against Chicago at home. Only no catches, no touchdowns or anything like that. What was the difference here? About 27 points. So, yeah, this matchup was definitely... he went with the right quarterback because Tannehill only scored 26. But again, I'm just looking at your bench here, kind of in the same boat as me. Win a matchup that I don't say winnable, but definitely could have gone the other way if a few of your players had performed maybe up to expectations. Obviously, Stafford. Derrick Henry is the one who stands out the most with his 6.5 points. Only 30 from Stafford. You would have liked to cover that 27 points. You figure 10 more from Henry, definitely plausible. 10 more from Stafford, absolutely possible. And if Stafford gets some more points, Marvin Jones Jr. in your flex there might have got some more. But yeah. Every player, even Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, those guys, they're going to have weeks where they're pretty quiet, and you're probably going to get a loss because of it. And those losses always they are unfortunate and painful to endure during that time. But you got to look at the big picture, and no season is made in 1 week here. So let's get to the rest of Plus and Magic real quick because that's all we've got left. Said Henry, Damian Harris, again, 71 yards, just enough to keep you in the pool. Hayden Hurst, 13.2. Marvin Jones, 13.3. Fairbairn, your kicker, 11 or maybe 12. And then another big factor here in the loss, perhaps the Chiefs' defense. Only 2 sacks, no turnovers, gave up a lot of yards, a lot of points. Yahoo says 2. Based on the bump, you must have got about actually 8, I'm going to guess, from the Chiefs' defense there. So, I mean, again, like I said already, 174. Talk about gags. I think other teams are in that 170 range getting victories this week. Often you're going to get a win with that, but sometimes you aren't. It's always, that's right. So Dub C won his 174. Gags, a couple other guys here. Darkwing Jet. 174 is right in that ballpark where you could go either way. You could win. You could win every week with 174, or you could lose every week with 174. So yeah, I don't need to keep on yammering and stammering about it. You guys, you get the point. But Positive Magic perhaps gets the last laugh because he, despite the loss, he is 5-4. He is in 4th place, while Dubsy Hooligans are 4-5, and they are down in 8th place. All right, so that is everybody. Yeah, going through those matchups, there were really no big serious injuries. We did have some COVID stuff pop up today with the Steelers. I know one for sure. Roethlisberger, I think they said Vance McDonald is the one who tested positive, and Roethlisberger sat next to him on the plane. So he is on the list thanks to from being a close contact there. But reports have also said that Roethlisberger has been pretty diligent with his mask wearing and things like that. So hopefully he obviously he's not going to practice all week, be away from the team. Maybe that's a good thing. That probably wasn't going to happen anyway, thanks to his knee injuries. Fortunately for all of us Steeler fans that don't think that'll keep him out, they're saying it won't keep him out any weeks. Maybe it's best to sit him for 1 week, but still, they just Mason Rudolph is he's garbage. They need to find a backup quarterback that can actually play sooner rather than later because we don't know how many more years. Roethlisberger is going to keep gutting it out here. So, all right. And I said Isotopes are knocked out. The team's still in. Gags, Possum, and Dub C. That's really about all there is to say about Week 9. Let's take a quick peek ahead at Week 10 and see where we stand here. Like I said, let's take a before we do that, take a quick peek at the standings here. We have 3 teams at 5-4. And 3 teams at 4-5. So 6 teams all there. Obviously, you guys can add 3 plus 3. 4th place. So the difference right now between 4th place and 9th place is only 1 game. Let's see if we've got any of those guys going up against each other this week. Yes, we do. We have Hillbillies on PCP going up against Shawshank Athletics. Both of you guys are 4-5. One of you will get back to 500 this week. One of you will definitely drop to 4-6 and be in a tough spot. 4-6 will mean you probably have to win out the rest of your schedule to have a chance at making the playoffs. And I obviously hate to get in. I shouldn't always have to get into these specifics because you guys know I shouldn't always have to say that yes, 6-7 is a possible playoff record. However, unlikely. You pretty much need to be at least 7-6 to make the playoffs here. So, if whoever in this matchup loses and becomes 4-6, most likely has to win out the rest of their schedule to have a chance at making the playoffs here. Let's see. Let's look at the Hillbillies. So no real long win. Disco with the longest current win streak at 3 here. So we'll see. Well, speaking of Disco, let's talk about him. And he's got a matchup against Darkwing Jet. Both of these teams are 5-4. One of you will get win number 6 and definitely be knocking on the door of playoff contention with 3 weeks left to go. All right, we got Saquon versus the Midgets. The Midgets playing for pride at this point. Saquon trying to keep his hopes alive one more week at least. Ed Lager versus Dub C. Let's see. Ed Lager said 3-6. Dub C 4-5. Ed Lager said still got slim playoff chances. If you want to keep any hope alive, Ed Lager, you need to knock off Dub C Hooligans this week and make both of you guys 4-6. While Dub C will look to get back to 500 and keep his playoff hopes alive. Gags versus Possum. Gags on a couple. He's on a 2-game. Oh no, that's me. Gags 1-game losing streak. But he has. I think he was. Maybe he was. He only had 1 loss for quite a while. I think he must have. I know he won last week, so he must have lost in week 7. So yeah. But yeah, Gags has gotten a couple losses in the past few weeks here. So on a bit of a slide, going up against Possum Magic, 6-3 versus 5-4. If Gags can win, he will get win number 7, and most likely, and pretty much essentially, clinch a playoff spot here. Assuming you're be up there with Yinzer Jags and Springfield Isotopes with 7 victories so far. And I think we can safely assume that 7 will get you into the playoffs here. Well, and not always, obviously. But let's see, is that every matchup? We got Hillbillies, Gags, Dub C versus Ed, Darkwing versus Saquon. Okay. And then we got the big one here. First place versus second place. Yinzer Jags recently reacquiring first place. Can he hold on to it going up against the Springfield Isotopes this week as the Isotopes try to reclaim first place after 1 week of giving it up? And I know Yinzer Jags got some bye week problems, things going on here. But definitely, absolutely able, and certainly a possibility. Yinzer Jags, I feel like on paper their team, and I don't want to say is falling apart, but it's been like kind of getting whittled away at with some defensive or not defensive. I don't know what I'm talking about there. I'm looking at your roster here, our matchup here, and Baltimore's defense. Your buns, you got solid buns, Kyler Murray and Baltimore, but Kittle is the one you said you lost. Kittle. Cooper has kind of trailed off a bit thanks to the quarterback play here, but Devontae Adams carrying you. All your receivers, your running backs are not great, but you've been carried pretty much all season long by your buns and your receivers here. So absolutely capable of popping off for 200 some points at any week, if not every week, for Yinzer Jags. So even despite some of those injury problems throughout the season, still been able to put up winning scores here. And we've got the Isotopes who have been on a bit of a slide here. said some injury problems, some um, underperformance problems, but that is just the way the ups and downs of every fantasy football season here. So the Isotopes will look to turn it around and stop their skid and reclaim first place temporarily, at least back from Yinzer Jags here. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. Yinzer Jags currently their flex spot is empty, so I'm assuming there's going to be something done here on the waiver wire tonight as you have Adrian Peterson moved down to your bench. No Cooper, no Watkins. I don't know if you would want to start Alshon Jeffrey, even if you could right now. So I can only assume that some kind of move is going to be made on the waiver wire here tonight to fill out the rest of your lineup. But yeah, even said the Isotopes look pretty good on paper, I think at least. But and the Yahoo projections seem to like us pretty well. But as we saw these past few weeks, not even though we've got some good names, they don't always put up score. They're not going to put up big scores every single week here. So definitely a matchup that, even though the projections are pretty far off, absolutely could go either way and is going to be a fun one to watch. The only Monday night player in this matchup is Thielen. He's at Chicago. That could be a little bit of a tough matchup there for you. Doesn't look like they've played Chicago yet this year. Those divisional games, always a little bit tough. Your teams know each other pretty well. Chicago defense, not great, but not bad either. So, all right, I should stop talking because I'm taking a look here and I see that I am already over. I've pushed it over an hour, which I'd never like to do. But yeah, we got definitely some matchups coming up here this week that will go a long ways in determining the playoff structure here. Looking forward here. And again, we will only have, this is week 10. We've only got 3 after this week. Let's see, today is Wednesday, because it's after midnight already. As I finish this up, it's the 10th of November, Tuesday the 10th. That means we've got, today, technically right now, when you're hearing this, it'll be Wednesday the 11th, which means we have 10 days until the trade deadline. I'm pretty sure it is the 21st. It is always the weekend before Thanksgiving is usually when we, pretty much always when we schedule the trade deadline there, which means we go through the last, I think, 2 weeks of the regular season without having trades being finished up there. So unless you're Gags, keep in mind that the trade deadline is approaching, and I'll remind you again next week. So we've got about 10 days yet, so just something for you guys to keep in mind. All right, I am tired of talking. Thanks for everyone for listening or watching or whatever it is you do. Looking forward to pretty exciting, a lot of important matchups this week. Going to be looking forward to seeing what happens here, though. As always, I hope that everyone's teams and their players, you avoid no major injuries, and everyone's players meet or exceed expectations. And hopefully Donald Trump concedes his defeat here and accepts reality, although it is actually not looking very well. I've heard rumors of a coup, but that is let's not get carried away quite yet. And that'll be enough, I think, more than enough, being with a political talk here. So, all right, again, thank you. Best of luck for everyone. No injuries, good scores, great scores, and we will see you back here again next week to recap what should be an exciting Week 10. All right, guys. Sorry, Kevin Bean. I just can't help myself with these long goodbyes. So, all right, guys, thanks again, and we'll see you back here next week.